Bonjour, bonjour, and welcome to the 35 things that I am unlearning at the age of 35. Those are notes from rebuilding my life from the inside out. Today is lesson number 7, and today I'm unlearning that I have to replicate what once worked. And I say this, I realize this, especially now. So, for big context, 2025 really sort of broke me, left me completely, who the fuck am I, completely disoriented. What am I supposed to do? And it started with my dad leaving. And then it was just an episode, a series of unfortunate events that happened within the span of 6 months between being evicted, being super sick, losing my hair, losing a lot of weight. What else? Closing my business. I was in a lawsuit as well because somebody owed me money and that I was chasing them for 9 months and they didn't want to give my money back. And we're not talking about 500 euros, we're talking about 6,000 euros, yeah? And then I broke up with my partner and I left a city where I grew. I became someone in the past 10 years in Amsterdam. So, all in all, it's been a roller coaster. I'm not hanging on to this year and using it as an excuse or anything, but in hindsight, I'm like, oh wow, you really did live a lot of episodes, just like one human being can just live a lot of different things. And obviously for me, it's just, I'm rebuilding. I'm finally out of survival, and not in a sense of like doing therapy and everything, but I'm just like, well, it's a chapter of my life. I really see it as a chapter, and I'm finally also learning, understanding the different lessons that happened in 2025. That was just, I believe, when things like these happen in your life, is just a culmination of a lot of different things that we haven't been seeing in the past, or that we saw but that we decided to close our eyes on. And so 2025 happened to be the year where everything would just come out, and where everything would need to be handled. Donc voilà. And so why I'm focusing on this lesson and why this lesson has come up for me, it's because the past 7 years of having my own business, of running a dance school, creating everything from my own workshops, inviting teachers, artists, handling the marketing, the sales, the invoicing, the admin, the copywriting. When I tell you it was like a one-woman job, I'm actually very happy I've done it for 7 years, and this was like my first iteration. This was my first experience. And so I've always had a foundation of I love teaching, I love sharing, I love bringing people together, and I love excavating the gold out of people. It was always about be you, do you, for you in my sessions, and the whole mood of my dance academy was just, I want you to be yourself. I want you to use these sessions as really your playground to just be who you are, express who you are, and just really own whatever stories that you have, and not necessarily use them as but just like own your stories. Everything is legit. Everything is matters, and so this is the core of everything that I did. So the format changed a lot. I had classes. I had classes of like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. I had workshops of 3 hours. I had weekenders of 3 days. I had retreats of a week long and 2 weeks long here in the Netherlands, but also in Ghana, in the south of France. I have been invited to teach in Europe, in the US, in North Africa as well. So the format always changed, but the content, or like let's say the baseline, the foundation, the heart of it was always a bit the same. And I loved, and I still love being an entrepreneur, because you repeat the same thing. The content is here, but it's like really beautiful to just expand on your creativity. How do you bring about a certain topic or the heart of who you are? How do you bring it and explore different sort of avenues so that you can still share the message, right? And so that you can still bring about a community of people who resonate with your values, with your philosophy, and who also in turn want to spread that philosophy, because It was never just about me giving my classes and that's it. It was really just like, okay, for me, this is important. What I'm doing here is like the reflection of my values, is the reflection of connection, of transparency, of authenticity, of vulnerability, of honesty. And everything that I've ever done was always like, again, a reflection of my values. And so at some point, when you do certain things, I mean, 7 years of teaching, you have to find a bit of, you have to find ways to be creative, to reinvent yourself, to expand, to take risks, to bet on yourself, to just, you know, it's like, again, the philosophy of the playground. I've always told my students, hey, this is a playground. Here you're allowed to just like make fucking mistakes. You're allowed to figure it out in real time. You're allowed to also be seen trying. Like, nobody's gonna judge you, at least not in my classes. I will never judge you because I don't believe in that. Again, reflection of my own values. And so I've done a lot of different formats. And the reason why it was important for me to say that I'm unlearning, that I have to replicate what once worked, is because it's easy to also remain in an identity that people know you for. Like, people knew me like long time ago. People knew me for having that big afro curly hair. Like, I had super long hair, for example. So even at Nike, everybody would call me like the big fro, or various nicknames, whatever. Same for the identity of the sunny sunshine girl who's like, hey, talking to everyone, being super extroverted. Extrovert. Bref, you got it. And this is something that also followed me even in my classes. And this is genuinely my personality anyways, but there are different sides of me, right? And so when I come to think about everything that I've done, I have pivoted a lot. You know, from, as I said, 1 hour classes to 90 minutes to weekenders to retreats, camps, and everything. The format has changed, but also even the content has changed. I started as really being a teacher who was like screaming and just hyping and everything, and it turned into something that was bringing a bit more depth, that was really more tailored to a deeper connection, you know, a deeper longing of really having a community, not just like a following of students and people who like the value and the vision and everything, because that can be quite lonely, to be honest. And I think this is something that I've felt the first couple of years of doing business. And obviously when you start, you don't know any better. You're just like, okay, I have this idea. And then, as I always say, the clarity and the vision, everything comes before, because you move, because you're in movement, because you're trying things, because you're taking risks, because you're fucking up and messing out. So everything becomes more and more clear once you start moving. And so at the age of 30, which was like 2.5 years into my business, that was really the moment where everything changed. And my trip to Ghana as well really changed a lot of things. And so from there on, and why Ghana? Because it was the first time that I traveled by myself to a country that I didn't know, just because I followed the inkling of I want to keep on learning more about Ghanaian dances. This is how I started my African dances journey. It was I learned traditional Ghanaian dances in Finland from other places. And so when I went there, I was like, oh putain, there's even more depth. I mean, I knew, but there's so much depth, and it's so fucking precious to see people there dance and relate and speak to dance in such a way that we don't necessarily have here, for example, in Europe, where we see it a lot being maybe commercialized, and, you know, you just go take your classes and then that's it. You have fun and then ciao. You do a few videos on Instagram, but sometimes it doesn't go any deeper than that. And for me, dancing and being around human has always been super precious. And I think I've shared it in one of the episodes where we're all, you know, we all have the same flesh, you know, okay, different colors, but we're still the same. We all have the same blood that is running through our veins. And yet we see the world and we experience it from so many different perspectives that whenever someone comes to my classes or to my events, there's this level of already respect and preciousness that I you know, I cannot just take anything for granted. It's like, oh my God, this is really, it's like a diamond, you just want to make sure that it's being taken care of well, that it's being just like not rubbed in the right way, but it's like when you look at it, you take your time. And so I don't know why I went into this tangent, but I think that that's why I've always been so careful with everything that I've been doing, and mindful and thoughtful. And then obviously coming back to Ghana, it's been a life-changing moment for my own experience of life, my own experience of my body, my own experience of dancing in general, of music, but also my relationship to my art, to my dance, to how I view the world, and how I view and define and sometimes redefine the meaning of community. And I think after that, really a lot of things changed. The way I approached my classes, I took even more time. I extended my classes. I would be honestly one of the few who would do like 3-4 hours workshop, because I just wanted to take my time. And so from there on, everything went super beautifully. I absolutely loved it. I've met people that were incredible, and that were super incredible. And at the same time, whenever you do this, obviously you as a human being, you always constantly evolve. Like even if you still have the same values and like philosophy of life and everything, it becomes deeper because of your perception and of your experiences of life along the way. So I stopped doing certain things. For example, I reduced the number of classes because it was too much. I moved from teaching 15, 16 dance classes a week to 3-4 a week. And then I organized longer workshops, like really moments where we just, hey, tranquille, we take time, we sit down. And then I started I started doing dance coaching programs of 6-8 weeks, and same thing. And so people obviously start to see you differently because they experience a certain version of you that is going along the lines of who they are at that same moment. So they vibe and resonate with you at moment X, but then you evolve as a person. You go into timeline A, and so the people who are resonating with you at moment X in their own timeline might not be resonating with you on your timeline. And I think this is something that I've always struggled with a bit in my business, because hello, people pleaser. So even in my communication or in my emails or anything, I've always been, rounding everything up. And which means that of course I have my core people who take the classes, and then I have another core who take the workshops and the longer experiences and everything. But I think this is something that I really struggled with, because I wanted to tailor to everyone. And then when you want to tailor to everyone, you keep certain things that are really super working. Like I remember the choreography class. I'll be super honest, after the second time I went to Ghana, I came back and I was like, I just don't want to do choreography classes anymore. I find this boring, because what was nice is that I extended it to 4 weeks instead of 1 or 2 weeks. Have I done this? No. I've always, when I started teaching, for example, I would just literally do 1 choreo a week. If you're not here, fuck it, c'est pas grave, But it's like, imagine 15, 16 classes a week, not even being able to recycle between choreographies, because I didn't want people to be like, oh my God, but we've already seen this choreography, like it needs to be novel. Can you imagine? Putain, they used to call me choreography machine, to the point that an hour or 2 before the beginning of the class, I would just literally create something, which I think is an amazing skill, because creativity is like, hey, your back is against the wall, create something. And the most beautiful part, I think, is that I've never let down of my musicality or my expression or anything. There was always a story. So when I look back at it now and I think of it, I'm like, bro, dude, you're really, c'est fantastique quand même, So moving forward and coming back to the choreography class that I was talking to you about, it was 4 weeks of the same choreography, so that helped me go deeper into, again, the depth of the session, of the class, of, finding it so precious that you as a human being are able to, what's it called? To create something like this. Like when I think of all the choreographers, artists in general, can you imagine there's something like in your heart that is coming to life? You cannot just squeeze it into 1 hour and a half. You cannot squeeze it into just one session. If you're not able to do that, then extend it to 4 weeks. And when I started extending it onto 4 weeks, I realized that I was feeling much better for sure, because I could take more time and I could even honor my own process. It's not even selfish, but it's also coming back into this process of inside out journey and of recognizing and remembering that it takes me time, it takes me effort, and outside of the time, effort, and energy, it's also, this is part of me, this is my story. So I encourage people to share their stories and to share who they are, and I'm not doing that in the same process, but c'est un peu hypocrite. So I felt a bit more comfortable, and these were instances, for example, where I got to, how to say this, to own my voice, own my process, and share it with people. And I really took it from a perspective of, if people like it, fine. If people don't like it, it's fine as well. And obviously, you're not for everyone. Like, some things are going to be liked by people, some things are not going to be liked. And as I said earlier, me wanting to sort of tailor to everyone's needs, at some point you're like, okay, but who am I now? What am I doing? Where am I going with any of this? Am I also finding my own joy in there? Am I also finding my own c'est pas momentum, c'est just joy, you know? Am I still enjoying that as well? And truth be told, like, this is also one of the reasons why I stopped teaching altogether and that I closed the company, because I was like, I am not really sure what it is that I want to be doing anymore. I don't think any of the formats that I was doing, I got bored, you know? And when I say I got bored, I'm never someone who is just like, I don't like it anymore, then I stop. I'm really literally taking the concept and I'm like, okay, how can I reinvent it? How can I bring it into another direction? So as I said, the core is still here, but the format, the expression of it is gonna go to multiple directions. And that's what I've always liked with this, is that you as a human being, because you're in that practice of practicing and exploring and taking it as an adventure, you're always going to be able to nourish this creativity. And obviously I was taking classes, training by myself, traveling to Ghana, connecting to people. So I was in that process of really always nurturing and nourishing this creativity. But at some point you're also like, I think that I've explored the same thing from all the possible angles, and now I don't want to do it anymore. It's like I always almost always needed sort of the permission to just like, hey, I'm done, you know, without feeling guilty. And for me, as I said, I like to explore all sorts of avenues because I'm creative and I'm also very resourceful. And so at some point, coming back to the choreography class, so you also understand the whole process of my thinking. At some point, the choreography class, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was doing it over one session, then it was like 4 sessions, and then you're like, j'ai plus envie. I don't want it, because I just feel like it's still, even when you share the story, even if you share how and why it is important to you, sometimes it's going to talk to people and sometimes it's not. So at the end of the day, it's also like, pick your battles. Do you want to keep sort of pushing, and at the end of the sessions, you're like, you're a bit drained, and you go home and you're like, yeah, it was great. People were happy, but I am not. Or do you always try to find a balance as well between what you're creating and how it is received by people? So at some point, that was it. I literally stopped the choreography classes. And this is a similar process that happened with a lot of the different formats that I've created. And I realized that, again, it's not because something works that I have to keep doing it. And now I'm even more confronted with it, now that I stopped everything and that I'm just also pivoting. It's been 6 months that I'm pivoting, that I'm not using my body as much as I used to translate life lessons or share or just bring people into a specific world, because I am rebuilding this world. I am just figuring out what is my how I'm building my home. And this is something I've said a lot at the beginning of my podcast journey, where it was like, I am rebuilding my home. This is it. The 35 lessons at the age of 35, rebuilding from the inside out. It's this. I've never felt at home anywhere, physically, and even in the Netherlands after 10 years. And now it's really the chapter of rebuilding the home, but from the inside. And I called it Home of Enjoyment, which is actually the name of my new company, because it made me realize that wherever I go, wherever you go, wherever you find yourself in any sort of journey, you have to feel at home within yourself. And I think that 2025, also the biggest lesson is that I've never really found a home physically, geographically, but I've also never really felt a home in a way within myself. I've tried, obviously, like the more you do things, it's like, ça j'aime pas, this I don't like, this I like, this I don't like. But the foundations were never really solid. And so 2025 really shattered whatever foundations I had anyways. And now it's really, again, rebuilding from the inside out. Oh my God, this makes so much sense now. And really realizing that now in this new chapter, in this new adventure that I have been on with the podcast, my presence on social media, the video portrait series, is really about making sure that I just don't go back to this. Sorry, I ate so many pancakes. J'aurais pas dû, I shouldn't have. Is really making sure that I don't go back to this identity and that safety of, but the workshops and the retreats and everything worked, so maybe I should still be doing that and just be in that process of rushing myself, of being in a hurry, of just like, I need to do something. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I've been doing since literally September, with finding a place to live, with work, with my finances, with my friendships as well. And it's only been literally the last 2 months where I have pulled the plug out and been like, en fait, I don't want to do retreats. I don't want to, hold people physically. I don't want to do it. It's not even like a question of being ready. It's just, I don't have the capacity, the tolerance right now to just be physically present with a group for even such a short amount of time as a 5 days, 4 nights sort of retreat, Same for a workshop of 2 or 3 hours. And I've tried doing that the last couple of months. And then even like in September, I had plans of hosting 1 workshop a month in Amsterdam, like literally traveling from Paris to Amsterdam because the community is there. And I know that if I pull up and then, I'll always have a beautiful group of human beings that I love and that I really cherish, and that I know I will have a good time with them and equally with each other and with me. But always thinking about it, I'm like, my body would just like, non, c'est pas possible. And funny enough, like the few times that I tried to do it, something went wrong. Either the venue canceled, or not enough signups, or me not wanting to promote. And the only instance where I really wanted to do it was last November. And I'll be super honest, I threw 2 workshops end of November. The only reason that I wanted to throw a workshop was to share the documentary I created for about Ghana, because I was like, this is the high of my year of 2025 and I haven't showed that. Like, I want to finish on a bang. I want to say thank you to all these people in Amsterdam. I want to say thank you to all the people in Ghana as well for all the time and knowledge and investment they've put on me, and equally I put on them. And I want to, again, my love for bringing people will never change. Maybe the format in the future. That's why I'm hosting online workshops now, and I'm excited about it. But this workshop was really super special, and I'll tell you about it later. But I really felt like it was really coming from the heart. And that's really, again, the whole shabam of this lesson of unlearning, that I have to replicate what once worked. Because, en fait, c'est pas there's no point, but it really has to come from the heart. It really has to come because you genuinely want to be with people, you genuinely want to work. And I think this, applies to anything in life, not just to work, but also with friendships, because you genuinely want to spend time with your people. And when it comes from that place and not from a place of, yeah, but it worked, or this people are gonna like this, or this person needs this, so I should be giving it to her, or I don't know, any sort of, yeah, whatever, outside excuses or outside excuses that we give ourselves, then it's caca. But if it comes down from if it comes from the heart, then everything is just so fucking easy. So voila, that's my lesson for the day. That I have to replicate what once worked. I don't. I do whatever I want, and so should you. If you ever wanted to, and I'm not excluding that I'm gonna be back to teaching or having classes or whatever. Right now, absolutely not. But in the future, we never know. And even if I changed my mind, who cares? I can just do whatever. And as long as, again, what is true for me and what is true for you is leading the path, not the fame, or not what you think people think of you, or how people perceive you, or what you think people would expect from you. Like, life doesn't work that way. Donc voilà, that's it for today. Tomorrow it's lesson number 8. Damn!